the most powerful designer drugs are the digital ones we use daily. And we get high off them. When touch, tap, like, scroll at a time. Just like tech creators want us to. Use digital without digital using you. Learn more at sync.ithra.com.
We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Hello there and welcome back to another episode of This Song Is Yours. I'm your host Simon Fink, and today we have another exciting guest for you. Joining us on the podcast today is the incredibly talented British pop singer-songwriter Laurel. She's worked with Aussie artists like Flume and Kita Alexander, she has toured across the globe multiple times, and she's even collaborated with fashion brands like Burberry and Vivienne Westwood. Today marks the release of her highly anticipated second record, PALPITATIONS. In today's episode, we're diving deep with Laurel into this brand new record and exploring the exciting sonic shift away from the sound of her debut record, DOGVIOLET. We chat about the creative process behind PALPITATIONS, working once again with longtime collaborator Jeremy Malvin, who some of you might know as Chrome Sparks. Laurel shares her experiences and insights on how her music has evolved and what inspired this new direction. We also discuss her growing connection to the Australian music scene, her collaborations with Flume and Kita Alexander, and what it's been like touring down under. We want to extend a huge thank you to Rhiannon for her help with today's episode and remind you to follow and subscribe to this very podcast. All details for Laurel and this pod can be found within today's show notes. So, without any further wait, let's jump into our conversation with Laurel. Please welcome to This Song Is Yours, Laurel. Hello there. How's it going?
Hello. Yes, good, thanks.
Laurel, thank you so much for coming to join us on the podcast today and having a chat about your music and this brand new record that is coming out. Firstly, congratulations. PALPITATIONS is out this week. How are you feeling?
Yeah, good. It's been a long time coming and it's just kind of good to release it, got to release this into the world.
100%. As you mentioned, is a long time coming. I think it's been 6 years between records almost. Is that right?
Yeah, so this is my second album. The first one came out 6 years ago. But I guess in the interim, I did these 2 EPs, which both have 5 tracks. And for me, that was kind of a 2-part album. So I feel like I've done 3 now, but technically 6 years.
Look, I can very much appreciate the fact of there's some EPs and kind of still continuing to release music. This new record, we'll say the third one, PALPITATIONS, it is a stunning pop record, which is very different for anyone who might have been following your musical project or journey from that first one, from DOGVIOLET. And I guess firstly, is there a sense of almost, if we technically remove those EPs, is this feeling like a new debut for Laurel, if that makes sense, with it being a different sound and a different kind of energy to it?
Yeah, I think so. There's 2 ways of looking at it, and I change my opinion daily, but it does feel kind of like a rebirth, a new Laurel. And, sometimes I wish this was the Laurel that people got to see without knowing all the other stuff. But I'm coming to understand that DOGVIOLET era is really a big part of this too. I think if you change the production, the songs are actually really similar. Mm-hmm. I've always wanted to write these very big choruses. My voice is very big. I use my chest voice a lot. And so, comparing the 2 records, they're not actually that different in theme, and the new one's a bit more major and it's got more pop production. But really all that happened was I started really enjoying like electronic music and the synth world. Like that's all that really happened. But yes, there is quite a stark difference.
I'd be very curious to know, as you just mentioned, like that it really is maybe the difference of a few major chords instead of minor chords. Did you notice the songwriting itself changing, like from previously how it was with DOGVIOLET? Was there any change to your method or approach when it came to writing these songs?
Yeah, I think so. Honestly, when I wrote DOGVIOLET, I was like 20, 21. I was pretty sad. I mean, I wasn't sad. I've always been a happy person, but like tormented, angsty, young, like heartbroken, you know, like deep feelings. And I think a lot of the songs came from that place. It was me just needing to tell someone how I felt and feeling that my music was just the easiest way to get it out without boring people. In fact, people actually liked hearing about it. Whereas the new project, honestly, I have kind of let go of a bit of that and I'm still figuring out who I am for sure. But I think I started rejoicing in this like summery, happy sound. Like I wanted to listen back to the music and feel good, not feel all the torment in life. So in that respect, they have come about very differently. I used to only really be able to write when I was heartbroken or sad, and now I can always write. There's always something to write about, which is nice and freeing.
100%. I think that there's probably something almost like a silver lining, if you will, in terms of the fact that this might have opened up a different, not even way to songwriting, but as you've said, you've now got the ability to do it at any point, not just for maybe more sadder times, if you will. I think, yeah. Is there anything, and I don't want to focus on it too much for the record. I want to talk about this new record. Was there a point for you where you realize that, I guess, for like a turning point where you were like, oh, cool, I can do this. I can kind of write these big pop like and happy songs?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, honestly, I remember the moment when I decided I needed to change things up. And I was actually on tour with Katie Tunstall in England. It was a winter tour and I was playing my guitar in front of, you know, a slightly older audience. A lot of old men. A lot of old men love the music, especially DOGVIOLET. I think it has that kind of like rocker thing, you know. And I was on stage and I looked at everyone and everyone's looking back at me and they look heartbroken. And I was just like, whoa, you know, this isn't where I want to be, actually. Like, I don't want to be haunting people on stage anymore. I just suddenly had that moment where I was like, it makes sense for me to be here right now because of what I've made, but I really want to evolve and grow and do something different. And I want to stand on stage and I want to feel people's energy back. I want to feel good. I want to sing at festivals. I want to dance and just have like this liberating set, which feels good. And I want to make people feel good. And, that tour was kind of this thing where that was almost like the end of the DOGVIOLET era for me. And then, you know, I took these songs that I'd written not long after DOGVIOLET. So they were kind of in the DOGVIOLET world. Like Best I Ever Had was one of the first EP songs that we released, which kind of was the big sound change that happened on that song. That was the first one we did in that vein. It was a song I'd written not long after DOGVIOLET on the piano. It was very minor. It was very chill. And I took it to Crim Sparks, a friend of mine, and we reproduced it and we wrote a new chorus. And it's now this uplifting, joyful, beautiful track. So that's why I guess to me there is this like, I can see the bridging of the gap, but it's not always clear from the outside.
Which is very fair. It's we've spoken to a few artists about this recently, and in terms of, obviously everyone's artist project is their own and what they want to do and how they want to be perceived and what they want to get from it. But I think the word that you used is very appropriate in terms of energy, in terms of like the energy that you put out is what you get back. And with no disrespect to any like quieter or more folkier act, if that's the energy you put out, that's what you get back. And if you're wanting to, again, see people engaged and getting into it, having fun, it's that thing of like wanting to put it out. So I can very much appreciate kind of wanting to do that. And I think you've done an excellent job with this record in doing so.
Thank you. Yeah, it feels good, and it's nice to see them smiling. And, you know, we've still got the old rockers at the show, but this time they're smiling.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a good, you've still got that good like cross demographic, but a different energy from them as well, which I imagine is kind of cool.
Yeah, for sure.
You mentioned Chrome Sparks just a second ago, your friend Jeremy Malvin, for probably what his mother calls him. I know that you guys have had like a long working relationship together. What is it that I guess keeps you continuing to work with Jeremy or with Chrome Sparks? Because like even though with some of those previous songs it might sound different, I imagine that there is something in that working relationship that is obviously clicking quite well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's just a unique person. He's just so talented. I think what keeps me working with him is, I mean, we were best friends before we started working together. So we had this relationship already where we felt comfortable and it felt like an exploration. It felt very fun, as opposed to serious, let's make music, you know, let's make a hit, which doesn't really work for me. So there's that. And also, I've just never sat in a room with somebody that can do what he can do. Honestly, there's no real limit on his musical knowledge. I think a lot of pop producers now, no shade, because I cannot do this either, but haven't necessarily come from a place of like music theory or classical music. But Jeremy has, and it makes him just an incredible musician. You know, play him a song and he knows the chords without even touching the piano, which is amazing, because I move very fast. I am very, very quick thinker, and I need somebody that can move as fast as me. And in other sessions before, I felt very it really squashes me to sit in the room and someone be trying to figure something out. So he's just really quick and talented, and we seem to have a good energy and we make stuff that we love. So I guess that's simple.
I love that. I am always very, I'm probably jealous is the right word in terms of people with perfect pitch and who can just listen to something and be like, oh yeah, of course, it's a sharp mind or whatever it is. It's a very impressive skill to have.
Me and you both. That is just the dream. Although, you know what, I don't envy the like 4 or 5 years of being in classical music school, because that sounds boring as hell.
Agreed.
Yeah, you can't have one without the other.
Exactly, that's the thing. I think, what was it, maybe a year and a half for myself, music school dropout. So I tip my hat to Jeremy for completing it and being able to do it. So good job, Jeremy.
Well, at least you got there. I didn't even go to university, so hats off to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know that you also worked with an Australian producer for this, Stars Fuego, who some people might know from Troye Sivan's Rush, which very recently actually won the APRA Award for Song of the Year here in Australia. What was that experience like working with him?
Awesome. I love Stars. It's funny because we actually did a song together before we'd met, because he ended up writing a part on one of my songs. But we'd been texting back and forth, trying to work together for quite a while. So by the time we got in the studio, it was really exciting, and he played me some just tracks he'd been working on, and there was this instant I was just like, oh my god, this guy's got it. He's just got it. I didn't even tell him what I wanted, and he showed me exactly what I wanted, and that was just such a special moment. And we started working on some new music for my next album together. And that's when we brought him in just to do some additional production on my first track, Wild Things, because it needed some flavor. And I was like, Styles has flavor. He can add character and flavor to everything, and it just is delicious.
Well, I absolutely love that, and I'm very excited to hear what might possibly be cooking for a future record. So we won't get too far ahead, but again, very excited for that. It does appear, though, I'd say that you're almost like maybe an honorary Australian at this point in terms of people you're working with. We've got Styles, we've got you appeared on Flume's Palaces record. Recently collaborated with Aussie pop star Kita Alexander. I'm just curious what we might have up your sleeve in terms of, should we expect like citizenship at some point, something like that?
100%. I'll be there at a flash. I love Australia. A lot of my family live in Australia. When we were kids, we were going to move to Australia at some point. I just feel like it's been this theme in my life since I was a kid, Australia. So yeah, it's funny. It just, me and Australia keep coming back together in these most natural ways, and I'm here for it because I really resonate with Australia, especially even more so now that I live in America, because when I come over to Australia, it's just like coming to England, but it's like much better weather and the beaches are way better.
We try and do what we can in that regard. Look, it might be a bit of an obvious question at some point. Can we maybe expect to see some shows or see yourself down here playing some shows in support of Palpitations?
100%. 100%. I'm so eager to get back, and we're working on this right now. We're working on like a tour routine that makes sense. So yeah, I haven't got any concrete dates for you, but this is all underway and I am coming as fast as I can.
Look, that's exciting. Even knowing it's in the works is exciting. And when it is announced, we'll make sure we promote it across the podcast and all of our channels as well. I would love to know, Laurel, in terms of, you mentioned just before when you were little meant to come to Australia, have you been writing music or interested in music since you were young?
Yes, absolutely. From 4 years old, I said I wanted to be a pop star, and I was very serious. No one took me seriously, and I was like, no, I'm being really serious. This is what I want to do. So I feel like I was called to this from a really young age, and I've never faltered on what I wanted to do. So it feels like my purpose in life, really.
I love that. Do you remember like sitting down for the first time and writing lyrics and trying to write music?
Yes, I do, actually. I wrote a song called My Star, and it was an a cappella song because I couldn't play any instruments yet. And I had no way of recording it. I just wrote it down on paper, and it was totally terrible. And I think it was like 10 minutes long. And I think every time I tried to sing it, it was obviously completely different. But it was a good moment. And then from that moment, I got a guitar, and I was very eager to find a way of recording my own music from very young, even before we had, MacBooks and were able to kind of use Logic like this. I was trying to find a way of recording stuff.
I love that. Was anyone else in your family, parents or siblings, were they musically inclined in any way?
No one. No. Not at all. It's kind of random, honestly. I just loved it. And yeah, I saw Britney Spears when I was younger, and I was like, that's it. That is it. I mean, me and thousands of other 4-year-olds, but yeah, no, I don't know why I loved it. I just did.
Well, look, it seems to have worked out, and I think all of us are the luckier for it. So I'm very glad that whatever Britney was doing at that time has obviously had a good influence. I was wondering if you might indulge me just a little bit. I wanted to ask about one of my favourite tracks on the record, Only One. I thought was just this gorgeous kind of track that builds throughout. And it has this beautiful kind of like tension in it almost that like it just kept me coming back to kind of play it time and time again. I was wondering if you might share, I guess, where that came from or how the song was kind of created.
Yeah, actually, this is the oldest song on the record. I wrote this 6 years ago. I originally made it I wrote it, but I took it to Jeremy and we added some of the synth on the end together. And that happened kind of the same week that I was doing Scream Drive Faster and the Petrol Bloom EP. But we didn't really think it fit on that EP because I was trying to show people this new side of myself, which was very, driving and bigger and synthy. And then we had this piano ballad, which honestly just really stuck out. And so I kind of sat on it for a while and I was like, I think I'll wait for the right moment, and it never really came. And then obviously coming to the full length, I was like, I think it's time for this song, which despite being so old, I have a lot of songs that are that old that aren't making the record, but it just consistently stuck out to me. It's one of the most special songs I think I've ever written. I wrote it quite fresh into a new relationship, and I think it encapsulates the themes that I write about quite often with love, which is kind of this bittersweet feeling where it's, I'm so happy, this love, it's just everything. But at the same time, that's kind of a problem, You're like, when you give something your everything, it really has the power to tear you down. And I wrote this song at a moment where I realised someone had become my everything without me intending for that to happen or deciding it, because you never really get to decide. But we like to think so.
We like to, yeah.
Yeah, and I think this song was this moment where I was like, wow, this is powerful. It could destroy me or it could make me.
It is a stunning song. So thank you very much for, I guess, being able to convey that in a musical way, and also for then sharing that story with us as well, because I do appreciate it. I know sometimes, especially when subject matter can be as close to the heart as that, it's difficult to talk about, but I do very much appreciate you kind of sharing that.
I love talking about difficult things. I just, it gets me off. That's why I'm a musician. I honestly think a lot of people that make music, they're just dying to tell someone how they feel, which is why I'm writing songs about it.
I think you might be correct in that way, but we love the way that they do it and how it's articulated as well. So I think that it is something very special.
Yes.
Laurel, we would usually ask, I guess, what they're currently listening to. Is there something at the moment that's on high rotation for yourself?
Yes, two things. I think it's on rotation for absolutely everyone in the universe because it's gone viral beyond. But it's called Artemis, and the song is called "I Like the Way You Kiss Me." Is it? No, I like it when you kiss me. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I think this song, I hate to be basic because I'm not the only person that knows this song at all, but it's just incredible. It really evoked something in my heart that made me want to make more music. And that doesn't happen very often for me. I think sometimes when you make music, you're a little bit desensitized to things. But every now and then something comes along like that I'm really quite enamored by. And I think a lot of people seem to feel the same. And then another track, which is slightly older, not that old, Omar Apollo, Useless, which I've loved the song for ages, but I just found it again on my playlist and I've been playing it over and over and over. I think it's one of the best songs, so yeah.
I love that. I love Omar Apollo's voice. So yeah, very, very solid track. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And Laurel, thank you for coming on to the podcast today. I appreciate it. Congratulations on Palpitations, which is out this week. But again, yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. See you soon.
The most powerful designer drugs are the digital ones we use daily. And we get high off them. One touch, tap, like, scroll at a time. Just like tech creators want us to. Use digital without digital using you. Learn more at sync.ithra.com.